Hey guys, welcome back to another tutorial. In today's lesson, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be addressing a viewer tutorial, and he wants to know how to create a photo in a JLabel that changes automatically from time to time, like in many websites. So it's like a photo slider that photos change automatically without having to click anywhere. So it's all automatic. It's something like what you see on screen right now. So I just want to thank Raj for suggesting the tutorial to me, and you guys can thank him if you do enjoy the tutorial as well. So what you guys are looking at right now is my very own project. I've decided to go ahead and basically test this sort of tutorial in my own application, and I quite like it. You can see that our image changes on each frame and they slide in nicely, alternating from left to right and so forth. So let's get into the tutorial now. Okay, so I'm not going to provide a tutorial resource pack for this. I'm hoping that you guys already have your GUI set up and stuff, but what we have here is a GUI, and we're just going to look at the dimensions. So the width of this is 840 pixels and the height is 472. Now the key thing to note is the width. Now the reason why we're taking a look at the width is because we're going to be moving it from left to right, which makes the width value more important than the height value, because the height's going to be the same. So if you wanted to go vertically, you'd have to take into account the Y value, which is 472, or the height value. So keep in mind the value of 840. So I have a background here, and you guys can see what the background consists of once I delete it. You can see it consists of everything except for these tabs at the bottom, the button, the frame, and then this little bit of text. So the background is literally just that, what you're looking at now when I'm dragging on the screen. Okay, so I've made a JLabel called background slide 1, if I can find it. There we go. So this is called background slide 1, what you guys are currently looking at, and that spans across the entire width and height of our J-frame. So 840 by 472, that's the same width and height of this right here. The width is 840, the height is 472. It just goes to preferred because I set it to be the entire thing, so that's fine. So we have another JLabel that's off screen. Now this is called background slide 2, and you guys can see it's not even on the GUI. However, it's slightly off. Now the reason why it's off is because we want to slide it in off the screen onto the screen. So the way that you find out where you want to put this in is basically take a look at your width. Okay, so the 840 is from the left to the right. So on the right hand side, right where the GUI ends, that's pixel value 840. Which means if we want our second JLabel to be just off screen, we have to set that JLabel's coordinates to position 840. And you guys can see the X value is 840, and then the width and the height is 840 by 472, so it's the exact same size as our GUI. Which means once our sliding animation occurs, the second image will basically replace the first image perfectly, and it'll fit the entire width and height of our screen. So what you guys want to do is you just want to add those two labels and then set an image on both of them. So I have an image on this one and on background slide 2. If I can move it somehow. Okay, there you go. You guys can see background slide 2, what it consists of, and the image that I have in there. So that's what it would look like. So it'll basically slide in from here. It'll slide in, and then stop at position 0, and then the other one will be off screen. So there we go. Now we can get started with the code. Now what I've done is I've already added a bit of code in here. I'm just going to delete that. And what I've done is I've just added a method called public void slideshow, and then I've added that method into the constructor. So as soon as our program starts, it runs the slideshow method, which is right here, and that's what we're going to type in our code. Okay, so once you have that basic setup ready to go, what you want to do is you want to head over to my website, teknikindustries.com. Now for those of you who haven't seen my animation class, I've created a tutorial on that already. If you guys want to check out the video, head over to teknikindustries.com/downloads. I'll put the link in the description, and you guys can download animation class version 1 or version 1.5. You can read the differences and work out which one you would like to use for your project. But I'm going to go with animation class version 1 because it's a little bit smaller, and I'm only going to be using it for a JLabel. So you want to click on the download, and you want to download the animation class.jar. If you want to watch the tutorial, I suggest clicking on the tutorial, and this will take you to my other video. Okay, so once you have the jar imported, if you don't know how to import it, just head over to that other video I just showed you guys now, and that'll show you. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to create a new thread. Now the reason why we're creating a new thread is to make sure, you just want to type in .starts. I'm terrible at multitasking. Okay, and then public void run to actually make a runnable method inside our new thread. And Netbeans formatting in Netbeans 8 has been really terrible for me, so it's not working really well. So the reason why we're creating a new thread is because we want to be able to move the JLabels and then also have a sleep timer, so we can time how long we want each JLabel to wait, or stuff like that. Also, what happens is it runs in a separate thread, so it doesn't interfere with any of the stuff in the main thread or the things in the thread for the animation. Okay. So once we have this, we want to create a try and catch. And the reason why we're creating a try and catch is because we don't want to keep typing out try and catches for thread.sleep. Okay. Because thread.sleep will almost never fail. I mean, it's such a low percentage, probably even 0. So we aren't going to be bothered about typing try and catch all the time. So in the try and catch, what we want to do is we want to create a while loop. Now the reason why we're creating a while loop is because we want our code to basically loop over and over again until the user actually closes the form that they are in. So it basically will run the amount of images that you want to show, and then it'll loop it once it gets to the end. So it doesn't just randomly stop, or it looks a bit weird. You want it to keep looping. So before we continue with the while true, we want to go up to the new thread and create a variable called count, or anything that you want. We're going to make it an int. So what's going to happen is we're going to constantly check what animation has been passed. So as soon as the first animation is finished, we're going to set count to be 1. And then as soon as the second one finishes, we're going to set count to be 2. So we're going to type in a switch and case. And in the switch, what we want to do is we just want to type in count. Now, if you don't know how to use switch and count, it's not really important for this tutorial. Well, it is important, but you guys can just go ahead and copy it. You'll basically learn how to do it as we go on with the tutorial. But if you want to learn in more detail, what I suggest doing is watching my make a text-based game in Java. Okay, so I'll leave the link in the description for that. So we're going to type in case 0. So we're looking out for when count is equal to 0. By default, it is equal to 0. And then we're going to run some code in here. Okay, so in the case, we firstly going to move our JLabel to the left. So we're going to go on the top here, and we're just going to create an object of our animation class. So we're going to type in animation class AC is equal to new animation class. So let's just type that in. So AC is just the variable for the animation class object. So in here, in our case 0, we're going to type in AC.JLabel left, x left. So what that means is we're moving a JLabel in the x dimension. Which way are we moving it? Left or right? We're moving it to the left. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Now, where do we want it to start? I'm just going to go over this quickly. It's start. Second one is stop. The third one is the delay. The fourth one is the pixel increment. And then the fifth one is what JLabel you want to move. So I want to move background slide 1. We're essentially going to move background slide 1 off the screen now. Okay. So we're going to make it start at position 0. That's because the X value is at position 0. You guys can scroll down a bit and you can see it's position 0. Now, because our width of this page is 840, we need to move this image 840 pixels to the left. Okay. Now, it's going to be negative 840 because it's going left of 0, which obviously means it's going into the negative. Okay, then the second two we have delay. So I'm going to go ahead and put 20. Now, don't type in anything just yet, okay? I'm going to type in 20 and 7 because I've already calculated the values that I want to use. Now, 20 is basically the delay in milliseconds. So every 20 milliseconds, our image is going to move 7 pixels to the left until it reaches position of negative 840. Now, we need to make sure that our value for the increment, the pixel increment at each time delay, is going to end up equals to our final value where we want it to stop. So head over to your calculator, okay, and then we're going to say 840, which is the position that we wanted to stop at, divided by some arbitrary value. Because I have 7, I'm going to type in F7, and you guys can see it's equal to 120. Okay, so it's going to take 120 times to get this image from position 0 to position negative 840. Now this value has to be perfectly even. It cannot be 120.1 or 120.2. So I suggest choosing a low value, something in between the range of 5 and maybe 15, and selecting an even value for your width of your frame so that one of the numbers between 5 and 15 are evenly divisible. Then the second one is the time delay in between each one. So in order to calculate the time the animation will take, we're simply going to say 840 divided by 7. That'll give us the number of times our code has to loop. And then we're simply going to multiply this by the delay. My delay is 20. And it gives us a value of 2400 milliseconds, which means the entire time for the animation from start to finish basically means from what we're looking at right now to get it off the screen will basically take 2400 milliseconds, which is equal to 2.4 seconds, okay? So this should just make our JLabel move over to the left. Okay, so let's see if it does that, and you guys can see it does. A little bit glitchy, but it does. Okay guys, so I figured out what the problem is. It's just because of incomplete code. So what you want to do at the end of this is you just want to type in count is equal to 1. So it breaks out of this loop as soon as animation starts. If it doesn't, it's going to keep looping in case equals 0. So it's going to, do that thing that we saw earlier. So now when we run this, we should get a nice smooth animation this time. And we do, which lasts for exactly 2.4 seconds. Okay. Now we want to create some sort of delay between start and finish. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in thread.sleep, and we're going to make it sleep for a specified amount of time. So because our animation takes 2.4 seconds, you need to calculate how long you want the image to stay on for. So if you want the image to stay on for, let's say, 10 seconds, what you want to do is you want to use a value of 12,400. So when you say 12,400 minus 2,400, it means your image will remain fixed with no animation for 10 seconds. So because we got 2,400, I'm going to choose 3,000. So it only stays put for 600 milliseconds, and then the second one goes. So let's start this up. It'll delay for 3 seconds if you guys want to time it, and then the animation will start, and this will last for 2.4 seconds. Okay. And now we can move the image back over to the left. So what we want to do is we want to create basically the same thing, the same case statement, except we simply want to change case 0 to be case 1. And it's pretty much the same thing, except you want to change JLabel X left to JLabel X right. So we're going to move it over to the right. And then you want to change the values for these, okay? So remember, background slide 1, after the animation has been complete, is at position -840. So we wanted to start at position -840, and we wanted to finish at position 0, which means it'll return back to the default position. So you basically just want to swap the values over, okay? And that'll make it go in the opposite direction. There we go. So now when we run this, you should see a nice smooth animation. 3 seconds, wait for it. And as soon as it hits the end, it'll wait for 600 milliseconds and then move over to the other side. So you want to basically repeat this for however many images you have. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Okay, so once you get to the very last image, what you want to do is you want to make count equal to 0. The reason why we're doing that is because once it reaches the final image, it's going to go back to the first image, which is case 0, and it'll loop through the whole sequence again. Another thing to note is that you want to just keep changing the count value. So in the second one, we change count to be 2, okay? So what's happening here is our thread is sleeping for 3,000 milliseconds, which is 3 seconds. Then our animation starts. Now because your CPU is so fast, mine is 4.2 gigahertz, it automatically goes and starts these two in a separate thread. Okay, that's in my library. And then it makes count equal 1, breaks out of this, and then it automatically reads that count is equal to 1, and it goes on to the next statement. So while this animation is occurring, our thread for case 1 is already sleeping for 3,000 milliseconds. As soon as this timer is finished, it's going to start the next animation. Then it's going to make count is equal to 2, and then this bit of code here will be executed. So you just want to keep incrementing the value over and over again. So now when we run this, you guys will see that we have a nice smooth animation going left and right. And it'll continue doing this pretty much forever until I close the GUI because I have it in an infinite loop using this count is equal to 0 at the end of the sequence. Okay, there we go. So that's just going to keep going with those 2 images. Now hopefully you guys have enough images already, 3, 4, 5, 6 maybe. I have 6 images for mine, which is why mine's like this. Now before we start thread.sleep, what we want to do is we want to create an image icon. Okay, now I type out this code all the time, so I'm just going to type it out real quick. We're just going to simply type in image icon II is equal to new image icon, and we simply use this bit of code to change get class dot get resource to change the image inside of a JLabel. So now we need to specify a resource using the string. So my images are found in a package called background images. So I'm going to type in slash background images slash the image that I want to display, and mine is called activation wallpaper 1.png. So this will set the wallpaper, right, and store it in this variable called II. Then we're going to say background slide 1, because that's the first image we're moving over to the left, dot set icon, and that'll automatically select II. So what's happening is when we start our program, it's already immediately changed the image icon. You guys won't notice because obviously it's the same icon. So we're going to go ahead and copy this over and over again, and the only thing that we're going to be changing is the background slide 1 to be background slide 2. Then it's going to basically alternate over and over again, okay? And I'll explain why we have to do that. And then all you want to do is you want to change the image as well. So I'm going to do that now. Okay guys, so I finished do my bit of code. Now let's run this. And you guys will see the first two images are the same, obviously. There we go. And now the second image would have changed. You guys can see it has been changed. Now the other image is going to change as well. And when this one goes off frame, it's going to change again. So there we go. We have a nice little animation slideshow. So let me explain what's happening here. When our code first starts, it goes into case 0. It sets the image into background slide 1, which is this image that we're looking at right now. Now, while everything is moving over, it's already set the second image to be activation wallpaper 2. Okay. Now, because this is in a separate thread to the thread that we're currently in, it means everything is running simultaneously. So as soon as this starts, it's already made count is equal to 1 and case 1 is started, right? So when case 1 starts, it starts at the exact same time, maybe with a tiny delay, probably even microsecond delay from when the animation starts. So maybe even before the animation starts, because remember we have this 20 millisecond delay first. So in that 20 millisecond delay that takes the image to actually starts moving, what happens is the image that's off screen gets its image changed over here. Then we wait for the thread to finish. That makes the animation finish. And as soon as the animation is finished, it moves everything over to the right. Now, because once again, our CPU is so fast and things like the timing and stuff, what happens is this runs simultaneously with the thread that we are currently in. So as soon as this starts, count is equal to 2, it breaks out of the statement and it goes into case is equal to 2. So the image that is moving, that's off screen currently, is background slide 1. So it's happening so fast that background slide 1 changes its image as soon as the slideshow actually starts. So that's how you basically create a nice little slideshow in your program. Now obviously, once again, you guys can change the timing. I just made the shortest timing possible. You guys would go ahead and make something like a 10-second delay. Currently, obviously, you won't even be able to read the text. And I'm a pretty fast reader. So what you'll have to do is change the timing and stuff like that. But you guys can see it turned out really well. It looks really professional. There's probably no one, I'm not sure why it glitched out there, but sometimes it does happen. Because remember, the swing is not meant to handle this. But if it happens in a commercial product, just blame it on the guy's computer. Just say your computer sucks or whatever. It's not a big deal. So it only happens like once in a while. But yeah, you have a nice little slideshow animation here that will make your program look very professional. Now I have this on my activation screen page. And once again, I just want to thank Raj for suggesting the tutorial. And if you guys did enjoy the tutorial, please don't forget to leave us a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. We have a nice little app dev tutorial coming up on Friday as well. So I'll see you guys then.